All right, we've talked a lot about the schedules because the stages are set, the schedules are rolling through, and one that we haven't actually touched on quite yet is the Open Cup.
Mm-hmm. Oh, man. Yeah, so if you guys have missed it, last week, MLS announced that the owners, the Board of Governors, voted on having the senior teams not represent, but the MLS Next Pro teams obviously have the affiliation. But remember, right, not every MLS team has a MLS Next Pro team, so that was a wrench in there. So a couple days pass, we're all marinating, every fan base, every supporters group, every media member is up in arms, and we're protesting. I don't think the MLS expected that, because then the U.S. Soccer Federation yesterday actually said, ain't gonna happen. You're putting out those senior team players, and you're gonna like it, all right? I think that overall, like, I'll be honest with you, Renee. I know a lot of fans love the U.S. Open Cup, and I completely get it. I was not so much up in arms, but I think the bigger picture kind of concerned me. What are we trying to do? Are we trying to be a global brand? Or are we trying to reach to our local, our local fan bases? Because we're still not a big domestic product here. Mm-hmm. Globally, I get what they're trying to do. The Apple TV, you're going out after Messi, and you're doing this Leagues Cup. It's a competition with the two best leagues in North America. So I kind of understand where they're going with that. But if the option of rooting out of U.S. Open Cup to emphasize the Leagues Cup, I'm not for. I don't really care for that. I don't need U.S. Open Cup, but if the option is Leagues Cup, I don't need that either. So I do love, me, I love the camaraderie. I love the fan bases all around the league stepping up and voicing their opinion. At the end of the day, this is the longest running tournament in American soccer history. So the MLS would do that. Was very, very bold, but it blew up in their face real quick, Renee. And I'll be honest, I kind of enjoyed it. It was entertaining. I had my tea yesterday morning watching this on Twitter.
Yeah, I think it's remarkable that right now we're seeing kind of the drama around it. Dun, dun, cue the Law and Order music, because it's like the news comes out, the schedules are getting released, the Open Cup is getting released, and then you have, for so many teams, that decision, if they do have an MLS Next team, to say, you know what, instead send the Union 2. Don't send our senior team. Don't send our main team, because it's a lot of soccer. And there have been, and see you, Babita, Merry Christmas to you. Welcome, Barbara, as well. Nice to have you here, too. There have been the conversations, even Jim Curtin was mentioning it, of maybe now we have to get more strategic with how we're going through our schedule, that you don't always have your senior team or even your starting 11 being put out there. And the Open Cup is a great example of maybe an opportunity. I know something else that was brought up was the reward money that teams have if they win these individual tournaments, CONCACAF Champions Cup, U.S. Open Cup. That to me is a factor. I think that's a big reason why, teams should be able to prioritize. If you're not going to it's not all about money, guys, but it is. If your reward for winning is significantly less for one tournament versus the other, which would you put all your, eggs into the basket for? So to then see the statements that came out saying like teams are not going to send their senior teams, and the statement that came back saying, oh no, as you mentioned, we believe that the beauty of the tournament is it embodies the only opportunity for every club in the country to prove itself on the pitch, a merit-based competition, aligning our game with the world's game. All these statements are coming out about why there's a need for this camaraderie of having everybody come together. But the problem with soccer especially is there's so many tournaments like this. Like, I know the history of the Open Cup is great, but we also already have, Leagues Cup, CONCACAF Champions Cup. Then there's things like, for each player to have a chance to go play with their country in the World Cup, in the Olympics. There's so many cups that it's oversaturated. Yeah. It's supply and demand, guys. There's way too many cups that now the participation in one doesn't feel as special. But if you have a chance to win a lot more money, I know Jose's saying like $100,000, $150,000 per win for Leagues Cup. That's enticing. The numbers, I have it written down somewhere for CONCACAF of what you can, the champion earns $5 million, it says 5. That'd be funny if it's $5. $5 million plus US dollars from CONCACAF and financial distributions if you win the Champions Cup. Like, these are extra benefits. That's why the NBA in-season tournament was so great for the $500,000. You've got to give these players something if you're going to take their time, make them travel, make them play extra. But it is interesting. I mean, I kind of was okay with the fact that don't send your senior team. Send your second team, and it is what it is. You're gonna get somebody represented there,
and it goes towards the bigger issue here with just our game in general. I mean, you saw like the rumors of back again. We're talking again about a European Super League. At the end of the day, it's all about the dollar signs. Jose's giving us the figures about what these teams are making and what we made as a third place team. And yes, like it makes so much sense to prioritize Leagues Cup because that's money, it's dinero. So I think that it's tough, but we're going to continue talking about stuff like that. I mean, you're going to hear maybe rumbles next couple of years about a CONCACAF Super League and what are we supposed to do here? So that's where I'm weary as to, are we trying to be the global MLS or are we trying to be the league for the Americans? And that is where I'm concerned. That's my only concern. If it's the Substitutes Leagues Cup, I'm not really crazy about that per se.
Yeah, because the Leagues Cup, there's been this speculation of if they're going to play or not. Yeah. I just think you
just manufactured. Like it's just the whole U.S. Mexico. It's cool, but we already have enough of that.
And this desire to want to bridge the gap within all these soccer leagues is great, but it's got to be done in a way that doesn't, like you can't have, okay, go play your individual leagues, and then we're going to play another league game, and then you're going to also play countries, and you're like it's too much. It's just too much.
And the other argument is like, in England, like those Premier League teams, they're playing the Prem, they're playing Carabao Cup, they're playing FA Cup, all these different tournaments as well. But those teams also have the funds to have depth to compete in all those tournaments. We just had the MLS rule changes. There was nothing about the DP, maybe a little more money to spend, but obviously, we're all looking for higher quality of players. And so that's the difficult part as well.
If you're going to require more, you have to allow for more. Yeah. And that's the frustration that I know we've talked about a lot with the union specifically is you have to have a roster that's built and designed to be able to withstand all these games. Yeah. Because that's the other part of it. Okay, if you can't send Union 2, now Union 1 needs to have 45 players. I'm just throwing out a number. 45 players that you can have on your roster, and then essentially you're not sending your best. Maybe you're resting some guys, but it's still the union. So you need to at least allow for financially and maybe roster space, cap sizes. I know there's going to be a lot of conversation around it, and Jose's mentioned the MLSPA. There's going to be those absolute conversations because you wanna participate in as much as you can, but you don't want to do it at the expense of burning guys out, getting them hurt, or even at the end of the season now they just look exhausted. So something's got to change because we know money does talk and move the needle, and unfortunately that is the driving factor. And if there's this need for having more cups and more games, because it does sell more tickets, as you're talking about Philly versus America, as you're having these different types of games. It gives more, She Believes Cup for the women. There's all these cups, all types of things that happen, whether it's the national team or the leagues. But we need to see more players, more money. The salaries then maybe need to be a little bit higher, for example. Pay people.
It is true. And the one thing is, too, you don't want to piss off the players. They are the engine of this league because that's why, butts get put in seats to watch these players. Mm-hmm. And, Jose says that. And, like, I get it. I get who Club America is. I get that. But, like, you said Philly versus Pittsburgh River. I was like, ooh, I would watch that. Because, it's Philly-Pittsburgh. That's just me because, obviously grew up in America, the Philly-Pittsburgh thing, but I get what he's saying. America is putting butts at the link. The Union are not putting butts at the link, unfortunately.
And that's the other thing. You have these special games that are exhibition games or cup games that now it's business. It's just business. You're now selling tickets at the link. You're now selling tickets, wherever. And that in itself is what has them kind of salivating. And to be honest, guys, it's only going to get worse because Messi's in the MLS. And with more names too. And with other names that come under the MLS, let's be honest, for as frustrating as this may be, it's only getting worse because now that's why we have Messi versus Ronaldo. I mean, these things did not happen before, but the league is like, oh boy, we've got lightning in a bottle. We've got to capitalize on this and we've got to make the most of it. So we're only going to see more to move the financial number because there are more people paying attention to soccer right now. Yeah. There's more of that.